I'm Edwin Warfield, the publisher of CityBiz, and I'm honored today to interview Adam Lowe, who's the CEO of SENTA Partners. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Edwin. It's good to be here.
Can you provide an introduction to SENTA Partners?
Sure. SENTA is an ENT and allergy physician consolidated PPM, or physician practice management, or otherwise referred to as an MSO. Some people also refer to us as an MSO, Management Services Organization. What all that breaks down to is we partner with ENT and allergists in the South and Southeast region of the United States. And we partner with the practices and the doctors, and we help run their practices, hopefully better than they do. That doesn't always work out, but what we do is we take all kind of the back office functions, all the non-clinical aspects of running a private practice, and consolidate it into one larger platform.
And can you share some of the numbers, the number of providers, the locations, the number of team members, the states that you're in, and the number of practices?
Sure. We started a little over 4 years ago. The first practice came on board March 1st, 2019, mainly in the Atlanta suburbs. And it had one location in Buckhead, which is the city of Atlanta. We started with 5 doctors, 5 locations. Again, that was early 2019. That was actually before I even got here. I started a few months later, and as we sit here, roughly 4.5 years later, we have 70 doctors, 60 locations. We're in 5 states, and we've grown from, let's call it 75 employees to 750 employees over the last 4.5 years. Having said that, we should quickly be expanding even further. So we are under LOI with a number of groups, one that hopefully will partner with us very soon. That would expand our reach to 7 states, 1,000 employees, and 90 physicians. But let's say 2 times that, 180 approximately, I'm using round numbers, total providers. So providers can be mid-level or nurse practitioners or audiologists, not just doctors. So hopefully by the end of this year, we will be even over 100 physicians, well over 1,000 employees. And I think we'll probably stay in those 7 states that I mentioned earlier. But it's been incredible growth over the last 4.5 years. It's been really interesting, and I'm looking forward to continuing to grow the platform.
So let's probably the first question I should have asked is, what does SENTA stand for?
Yeah, SENTA stands for Southern Ear, Nose, and Throat and Allergy. So when our financial partner, Shore Capital Partners, started the platform and did an investment thesis for about a year, they wanted to concentrate in the South and Southeast. So that's what it stands for. Having said that, we're in Texas, which certainly is the South, but not the Southeast. And the states that we exist in, our home base is Georgia, but we exist in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and Texas currently. And we will, again, those other 2 states I can't mention now, but we'll go from 5 to 7 states. What's interesting is usually when the platform gets started and you do want to focus on a certain region, right? And then you build density in that region for many, many reasons. But one day, sooner versus later, my capital partner, Shore, will exit the business, and we'll have a new sponsor, a new financial partner that'll come in, and the geography will change, in my opinion. And so we'll have to look for either something that the S stands for other than Southern, or come up with something else, just leave it SENTA. But we've had inquiries from all across the country, Denver and California and Seattle and the upper Midwest. And right now we're really focused on the South and Southeast, building density in those markets. And we'll get to the other markets in due time.
And share some highlights from your career, including your stints at the United Healthcare of Illinois and Athletico.
Sure. So I started at United Healthcare about 17 years ago, I think. It's good to know how the other side works. So It's good to know where the bodies are buried in insurance companies and how you navigate the system. It's become very helpful in my subsequent jobs. So I was at United for almost 5 years. I worked on the network side on some national contracting endeavors, as well as locally to Chicago, Illinois. United Healthcare calls it United Healthcare of Illinois, the local health plan there. Through that process, I resolved a dispute with a large physical therapy business that's based in Chicagoland called Athletico Physical Therapy. And I moved around within United a little bit and managed the sales teams at one point on the sales side, which is very different than the network side. But that led me to building relationships with Athletico's founder, and at that point, CEO. He's since moved on to the executive chairman role at the board, Mark Kaufman. So there are certain things in life that no matter how good you might be, timing always helps. Contacts always help. And through my contacts, Mark hired me away from United, and I worked at Athletico for 8 years in a wide range of different areas of the business, clinical operations, growth, legal and compliance, and revenue cycle, and marketing and sales, and really what Mark did. I'm not sure if that was his agenda or it just happened. He prepared me for this job, so which I really appreciate, and certainly one of my mentors throughout my career. And when I took this job again, roughly just over 4 years ago, there was, at least in the beginning, there was nothing that I felt like was foreign to me in terms of managing a platform as a CEO, this is my first go around as a CEO. And that credit is due to Mark and all the things that he allowed me to experience and I tackled at Athletico. And it was great. When I got there, we had approximately 60 clinics in 2 states. 59 of those were Chicagoland, Chicago areas called Chicagoland. We had one in Milwaukee at the time. When I left, so I was there about 8 years. When I left, we had 525 clinics in 12 states. They're now up to over 900 clinics in 25 states. And that's a combination of M&A as well as de novo or new clinics expanding in that manner. So interesting story too, actually. My current partners, Shore Capital Partners, also out of Chicago, I was introduced to them through Mark. And so I got to know them through Mark. And so when I had told him I was leaving, and when eventually he told Athletico, the company that I was leaving, at least all the senior members of the team, he kind of blamed himself and said he dug his own hole when it came to introducing me to someone who eventually led me who I partnered with and went in another direction. But it was time for a change. It was time to go. And again, I appreciate everything Mark did for myself and my career. I wouldn't be here without him, obviously, in many different ways. And that led me to where I am today.
So let's go back to 2020 and sort of highlight the acquisition of Atlanta Allergy and Asthma. Walk us from 2020 to today and highlight some of the acquisitions.
Yeah, so the first one was Northwest ENT, again, early 2019. We actually had several LOIs, letter of intent, signed, and we were close to what's called closing them or formalizing the partnership when shelter in place or COVID hit. I mean, COVID still exists today, of course, but the shelter in place order hit. And while our clinics were open, certainly when people were sheltering in place, the volumes changed dramatically, right? So we ended up partnering with Atlanta Allergy and Piedmont. Actually, Piedmont ENT was first in August of 2020, and then Atlanta Allergy following that. But those were practices 2 and 3. I think that timeline would have been at least 6 months earlier, approximately. But we had to take a pause, not just with those practices, but with our own practice and our own business, and see what was going to happen. I mean, it was such an unknown for all of us, right? We were working at home, or some of us went into the office or went into clinics that had the ability and the exception to do so. Again, medical providers and other hospitals, of course, and other other medical services businesses, among others. But we took a pause in those deals, ensured that when shelter in place ended over a period of several months, that the business was still the same business that we thought we'd partner with prior to shelter in place. So it was an interesting time. If I, going into March of 2020 and where we are today, September of 2023, which is not that long ago, frankly, right? The things that have transpired in this country of ours has been interesting, to say the least. So whether that's shelter in place or the Great Resignation and labor costs going up dramatically, supply costs going up dramatically, and people shifting jobs very quickly. Look, it's interesting, and it made myself and the team that I help serve and represent better. The things we've had to manage through and come out on the other side. And again, we've grown the business, approximately 15 times, just using round numbers, since really August of 2020, right? Because you can go back to March of 2019 and say that's when we started, and we did. But until very late August, almost September, we still had that one practice. And the circumstances had not changed after we bounced back from shelter in place. So in the last 3 years, not going back 4.5 years, we've grown the business 15 times. So Atlanta Allergy is our biggest practice. They've got 20 providers, almost 20 locations. They're one of the largest allergy practices in the country. They're a great partner. They're widely recognized. And what that's allowed us to do is actually partner with other physicians and actually kind of tuck them in underneath Atlanta Allergy. And Atlanta Allergy's grown since we've, I like to say co-managed it. I mean, ultimately, we may have final decision rights, but we are high-level communicators and we are high-level collaborators, and that's how we process the day-to-day with our doctors. So when there's no ivory towers here, I call our corporate office, that's the last time I'll use that comment, a support center, because we are here to support our doctors. Okay. And we support our doctors, right? And they treat the patients. So SENTA doesn't treat any patients. SENTA's customers, yes, are patients, but SENTA's customers also, if not number one or 1A, are doctors, are physicians. So we manage alongside them. We certainly alleviate a lot of administrative burden from them, and a lot of the things that doctors don't like to do. That's not why they got into medicine. They got into medicine to be healers, right? To treat patients. And so we take all the undesirable aspects of what private practice has become, and centralize many functions to run the practices hopefully better.
And so tell us about, you're talking about the support that you're providing. Tell us about the marketing support. How do you help an ENT practice?
Yeah, some ENT and allergy practices have marketing and are different aspects of marketing. Every practice is a little different, right? Northwest ENT had 5 doctors, Atlanta Allergy had 15. And so very different size. And so as a result, different budgets when it came to marketing. I mean, we centralize, I hate to use the word take over, but we centralize all the marketing functions. That is one of the functions we centralize, at our support center. And that looks like enhanced digital presence, depending on the practice. Some of them are doing some SEO, some buying of SEO, some not. We maximize like websites and how you click on links and meta tags and things like that. Our Google reviews are much more enhanced and much more numerous in nature when it comes to all of our practices. Some are doing billboards, some are doing traditional marketing. In some cases, we've continued those things. In some cases, we've discontinued. It depends on the market. In some cases, we've enhanced those when the market, we thought that was a good aspect of marketing to do in a particular state. We use physician liaisons. So our business is very referral oriented. And so we use physician liaisons, as we call them, to interact between referring doctors and our physician partners to help enhance volumes. So there's other aspects too of it, but I think what we bring to the table versus where a smaller practice that any revenue was anywhere from 5 million to 10 or even a little bit more, 15 or 20. We're greater than 9 figures in revenue, and so we just have a lot more capital, right, to bring and put towards marketing endeavors that help grow the practices, grow the volumes, see more patients.
So Shore Capital Partners invested, according to my research, in March of 2019. Tell us about their role, and you vaguely mentioned that there may be a new private equity partner. Tell us about their role and what's the next steps.
Yeah, we got a ways to go yet. So to be fair, Edwin, so thanks. But so Shore's great. Shore builds businesses, and they're very good at it. They've had 13 platforms that they have exited, and we're one of now 43 existing other platforms that are currently within their management. I think they're up to $4.5 billion under management. And Shore does a great job of supporting their management teams. I've worked with 3 private equity firms very closely, 2 at Athletico and now 1 here at SENTA. And hands down, by far, Shore is the most partner-oriented of those 3, really supporting management, getting in the weeds with management. Not everything goes perfect all the time. Certainly, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. And, Shore asks us, what help do you need? How do we figure it out? How can we help you? How can we help you and your management team? Because we all have the same goals together, which is to grow the platform, continue to grow the platform, together. So they are extremely helpful. They've been a great partner. One day I will be sad to see them go. We're not very close to that day, but we got a lot of work to do still. But that's what private equity companies do, right? Is they invest in a platform. Some start platforms before a practice is on board. Others have how Shore typically does it is a practice comes on board and then the management team trickles in over time. And that's how they started SENTA. So they've been a huge help. They've taught me things that I guess I thought I knew, or even what stuff I didn't know. And you always can learn. Like I don't have the answers. I'm a lifelong learner. And they've just been a really good partner. And I think myself and the whole team will be better off for it. So when our next sponsor rolls in, and so what Shore does is they typically invest in what they're a micro cap investor. Although I don't think anyone would call us with 1,000 employees a micro cap company anymore, or even a small company. We're not even a small cap company. We're probably somewhere between small and mid cap. But when they exit and a mid cap sponsor comes in and partners with us, my guess is, just like it was at Athletico, it would be a different dynamic, right? Your management team is more on your own. Like the sponsor's there to help support mainly just capital, not to the day-to-day operational support that Shore provides, not just to SENTA, but to every single portfolio company that they have in healthcare, in food and beverage, in business services, and now they're also getting into real estate as well.
So how mature is the consolidation of ENT practices, and is there any competition in the, for one of a better term, roll-up of ENT practices?
Yeah, it's still early days or early innings, as people like to say. There's 5 or 6 platforms where, for example, I use ophthalmology as an example. I think I lost count at 50. So I don't know where they are exactly today. Maybe they're still around that number. But when Shore started iSouth, which is kind of our sister company here in Atlanta, in Metro Atlanta, they were all similar like us. They were the 3rd or 4th ophthalmology platform. And now, that grew to 30, 40, whatever it is, again, 50 or so. It's been a little slower on the ENT side. I think there's only, again, a handful of us. And same thing with allergy. There's about a handful of about allergy platforms, and we have a unique opportunity. We're both, so that's a differentiator for us. Where we have both ENT and allergy. There's positives and negatives. So the positive is we have less competition, obviously, but it's not as a mature market. So when you try to partner with doctors, I think they're maybe a little less likely, not that they won't do it, but a little less likely to partner with you versus a more mature market that is expanding dramatically in that area. And there's a jump on board. I better find a dance partner because otherwise I'm going to be left out in the cold, right? So we don't experience that as much. What we have to do is we have to educate practices about why they should partner with us. But I think I'll take education over competition any day. But there's some competition out there. But I think one day, ENT and allergy will be somewhere between where we are today and where ophthalmology or dermatology and other specialties, physical therapy or dentistry, right? I mean, those are some of the earlier ones, dentistry and physical therapy. So we'll be somewhere between where ophthalmology and like dermatology is today, and they're not as mature consolidators as physical therapy or dentistry, as an example.
So, what are the growth plans for SENTA? I mean, obviously, geography. You're going to stay within the ENT arena, right? Where do you see the company in a couple of years?
Yeah, again, starting with the S for SENTA, I think we need to still gain density in the markets that we're in, other than Georgia, where we have very good density, which is our home base. And the other markets that we exist, Virginia, North and South Carolina, and Texas. And we still need to get more practices there to partner with, to build density in those markets. And we have a bunch of opportunities. We have a number of LOIs signed in each of those states. Not every LOI gets consummated. Not every deal gets consummated, but that's normal business. So really focus on the states that we're currently in that we need more density. Again, we have 2 new ones coming on here probably this month still. So that'll add from 5 to 7, as I mentioned earlier. And then I think we'll continue in markets that where demographics are good and people are moving into, where there's a lot of belly buttons, so maybe that it's hard to put a straight path for Edwin and just tell you we're going to be in this state or that state. Some of it's opportunistic, right? Like, if we get a call from a great practice in a state that's 1,000 miles away, does that make sense, right? So, and why does it make sense? What are the dynamics of the practice, of the market? How's the payer mix in that market? Is it a market people want to move to, whether that's recruiting for doctors or people like you and I that want to live in a certain city or state or area? So all those are factors that we balance. So I would think at some point, hopefully we're nationwide, but that's a long ways away.
Okay, I just thought up your brand, US ENTA. Okay.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll see if SENTA plays nationally. So maybe we'll see.
Question: is there any part of this story or of SENTA story or your bio that you'd like to share with us that you haven't shared with us?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fantastic time. It's been the most rewarding professional time of my life. I've learned more than I could possibly imagine. I've forged new experiences and new relationships with my fellow team members, with the people I support, with my fellow physician partners. It's certainly a challenge. I've personally never worked harder in my entire life, but I love what I do. I come in with a smile on my face every single day, which you can probably see. And I tell new hires or people I interview all the time, because culture is super important to me. Having a culture of appreciation, where there's no drama, where you're always trying to improve, and there's a high level of accountability and responsibility. Self-accountability and responsibility is I get to go to work today, not I have to go to work today. And that's what I feel every single day. So when you feel that way, it's not work. Okay. So whether that's, traveling or all the time or working on the weekends or late at night, myself and the team does whatever it takes because I believe they all have that same philosophy that I just shared with you of we get to go to work today. We don't have to go to work today. And when you have that as kind of your North Star, um, it's an interesting and fun time to be here to figure it all out, to roll with the punches, to fix problems, fix items, and come out hopefully with a better practice on the other side. Hopefully, we enable our doctors to practice better medicine and treat patients better, and that's what it's all about.
Well, Adam, I want to thank you for sharing your personal journey and the story of SENTA Partners. We look forward to hearing about your future growth, and please share it with us.
All right, I'm happy to do it. Thank you for your time very much, and thanks for having me. I appreciate it.